Hello readers, I'm Amy, and I am your nonfiction feminist. Welcome to my booktube channel. I'm going to start things off with a book tag so you can get to know a little bit more about me, see if this is the channel for you. So the Books About Me tag will involve me asking questions about jobs, pets, just great get to know you starters, and I will answer them using books on my shelf. So for our first question, pets. What pets do you have? Tell us about them. I have 2 cats, Dmitri Shostakovich and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. My husband's really into classical music, and I thought those were really fun names. We just call them Dmitri and Amadeus. And yes, we sing the Amadeus song to him pretty much every single day. It's fantastic. Say hello. Say hello. This is Dmitri. He has 3 legs. We got him from a shelter. He was our first cat, my first kitty. He's a little grumpster who doesn't like to cuddle. This is Amadeus. He's the one that we sing to. He is 2 years old and the biggest little troublemaker that I have ever had, but I have chosen to love him anyways. For pets, and for cats specifically, I have Adventure Cats. This was done by an Instagram account that has a ton of pictures of cats going camping, cats going boating and hiking, all sorts of fun stuff. It's kind of like a travel guide of sorts and just a guide on cat care and cat training. You can learn about first aid, you can see beautiful pictures of beautiful cats having an awesome time living their lives. If you want some tips on getting your cat started with leash walking, how to set up a first aid kit for your cat, what kind of places to take them, what kind of adventures to have, it goes through everything from taking them down the hallways of your apartment complex to walking in the city to going out into forests and onto lakes, all sorts of stuff. This is just an awesome beginner's guide. Check it out if you want your cats to see some more stuff in life and go on adventures with them. Question 2, college. What did you study? I have 3 books for this. My bachelor's degree was in psychology. My first minor was in women and gender studies, and my second minor was in sociology. So for psychology, I have The Science of Evil, on Empathy and the Origins of Cruelty by Simon Baron-Cohen. This book starts off talking about cruelty and evil, how they're pretty difficult to define, and instead gives us a definition of empathy and talks about empathy on a scale from 0 empathy to very empathetic. This book focuses on 3 specific different kinds of 0 empathy, as he calls it, or no empathy, and those are borderline personality disorder, psychopaths, narcissism, and autism. It's not as dry as I was thinking it might be. I am not quite finished with this. It's taken me, you can kind of see my bookmarks there, it's taken me a little longer than I thought it would. It's more of a pick it up when you feel like it book for me. It's got a lot of brain science. Brain science was not my strong suit in my psychology major, unfortunately, but it's fascinating. Next up, we have my first minor in college, which was women and gender studies. For that, I have picked out Periods Gone Public, Taking a Stand for Menstrual Equity by Jennifer Weiss-Wolf. And Jennifer starts off the book telling us that she hyphenated her last name so she could have the same initials as Wonder Woman, which is totally awesome and something I think we would all do if we had the opportunity. Periods Gone Public focuses on periods, obviously, and it's very kind of news column in its writing, very accessible, which is awesome. She discusses periods as they relate to gender, as they relate to race, and especially as they relate to class. So homeless people won't have as much access to period products, either financially or educationally. It talks about the machines that some people are making in India to help make their own products, along the same lines as the period documentary that was on that came up on Netflix a little while ago. She also discusses the tampon tax, how that's had an effect on us. This is a really great book for people who are advocates, who are advocating for better sex education, who are advocating for cheaper or free period products. This is a book that I got so much out of and that completely changed my perspective on periods. I've had the privilege of having a nurse for a mom, of having money enough to have a lot of access to period products, and not everyone has that, and this really puts it into perspective just how difficult it is to have your period when you have so many other things in life that you have to focus on, whether it be food or housing or money or anything. A period is just one more awful thing that you have to put up with, and that just makes life so much harder than it already is. For my second minor, sociology, I've chosen Postgrad, 5 Women in Their First Year Out of College by Carolyn Kitchener. Carolyn did not get her degree in sociology, it's actually in history and gender, but this book I very much consider a sociological read. It's showing you the lives of these 5 women towards the end of and after they graduate from college, their struggles, their triumphs. Whenever I was graduating college, I'm just like, what's next? What am I doing? What am I going to do for work? What do I want to be achieving in my life? And this really put things into perspective for me, took some of the pressure off. Like, I can wing it a little bit and it's gonna be fine. I don't have to know everything that I want to do. I was only 22 when I graduated college, and I had to remember I have a lot of life ahead of me to figure things out. I don't have to know everything right now, and I can be okay with that. This book felt really conversational, like you're talking to a friend, just gossiping about life. What are these other people doing? Let's check in with them. Let's see where they're at. And yeah, it put things into perspective, and it was kind of the comfort blanket or the comfort book that I needed when graduating. Question number 4, what's your job? What are you doing part-time or full-time in your life right now that's giving you some money to buy more books? I work at a treatment center for kids with severe emotional disturbances, usually anxiety, depression, and drug use. So for my job, I chose How to Grow an Addict by J.A. Wright. This is actually Wright's first book, and she herself spent 30 years in recovery from drug abuse. This is a YA book. It tells the story of this girl who's got like an alcoholic father, she's got an absent mother, she struggles in her relationship with her brother. It discusses how the girl got into her drug abuse, kind of details the journey of her life until she ends up at a group home, much like the place that I'm working now, and she's talking to a therapist trying to figure out what she's really struggling with, who she really is, how she can better herself after her treatment. And I actually was recommended this book by a youth at our treatment center in one of our lodges. She's sitting in the clinic waiting for her appointment to start. I'm sitting in the clinic waiting for one of my youth to get their appointment, and she looks over at me, she recognizes me as a person who brings books to them on campus, and she's like, hey, you should read the first chapter of this. I think you'd find it interesting. And I read it, I was interested, I put it in my Amazon cart, and I got it. For this book, there is a trigger warning for drug, alcohol, family, and animal abuse. It made it kind of hard to read every now and then, but that's also what you expect from a story about this. So if you're at all interested in those topics, definitely recommend. Being YA, it is an easier read. And also, can I point out that this is an amazing cover. You've got the pills and the bottles and everything to help grow this person into who she is today. This is not an autobiography, however, I'm guessing that is very much influenced by the author's life. definitely check this out if you're interested in treatment center fiction. For number 5, what is a recent reading trend that you've gotten into? I myself have been reading some pretty dark books lately, as you can tell from How to Grow an Addict. And for dark topics, I've chosen Patrick Suskind's Perfume. This is my absolute favorite fiction so far this year, and Perfume details the life of a man who goes around killing women and turning them into perfume. He is born completely odorless. People freak out because he doesn't smell like a baby. Whenever he grows up, people don't really notice him. He doesn't seem to have a presence in the room. Suskind really puts a lot of work into his descriptions of smells, of scents, and it's very much a story of pheromones, of that underlying scent that you don't detect with your nose, more with your mind. The kind of smells that give you gut feelings about people, that make you feel romantic or lust towards people. A lot of people that I talk to about reading this book are like, oh my gosh, what are you doing reading this? Are you a sociopath or something? And no, I just really, really love the villain perspective. It is my favorite, or one of my favorite perspectives. Almost every book details the hero, what they're thinking, what kind of person they are, but I want to know, what's the villain thinking? How did he get there? Why is he doing this? What are his inspirations? Like, villains are evil and terrible and fascinating. I am definitely rereading this at least once this year, possibly 16 more times. I loved it. I loved every minute of this. Question number 6. 5 authors you would invite to dinner. It's kind of a play on the question of 5 famous people that you would want to hang out with or take to dinner, drink cocktails with, whatever. So, my first author, I chose Elizabeth Rice, who did Bodies in Doubt, An American History of Intersex. This is a book that I came across when doing research for one of my women and gender studies classes. Intersex, I feel like, is something that not a lot of people have heard of, not a lot of people know about. It talks a lot about how people who are intersex were viewed as monsters, who were always having pictures taken of them for medical journals and for research, how that wasn't really okay because their bodies weren't really their own, their bodies were everyone else's. It talks about how intersex affected their marriages, their day-to-day lives, how it stumped doctors, how their bodies were used for so much medical research without even really asking them. Really awesome book if you want to know more about this topic and be an advocate. I would love to be able to have the opportunity to talk with Elizabeth about her research, how she got interested in the topic, how her research maybe changed her initial opinions or ideas of intersex. She would be awesome to have a conversation with. The next author I would love to meet is Roxane Gay. Bad Feminist was the first book of hers that I read. I also read Difficult Women and Hunger, loved both of them. Bad Feminist is basically saying there are all of these supposed requirements of being a feminist, and you don't have to meet all of those requirements in order to call yourself a feminist. This is an essay collection talking about feminism through race and gender. I don't read a ton of essay collections. This is one of the first that I actually got into, and I loved it, and it's inspired me to look more into essay collections and kind of give them a second chance. A third person I'd love to have at my dinner table is Mary Roach. In high school, I would never have touched nonfiction. In college, I had to, because you have to read a lot of nonfiction papers and a lot of nonfiction books in order to do your research, to turn in your papers, and Mary Roach made nonfiction accessible for me. She's hilarious, she simplifies a lot of things, and I love her enthusiasm for her work. She will pick a topic, dive into it, and write a book on it. She's done one on the digestive system, on sex, on cadavers. You have Packing for Mars, which largely focuses on how to use the bathroom in space. And I would love to have a conversation with her on how she picks her topics, about how far would she really be willing to go for her research? If you're looking for some really accessible, easy to read nonfiction, Mary Roach is a great place to start. And she makes it funny. She's definitely my kind of humor. Next up, we have Gillian Flynn. Again, recent trend in my reading is really dark topics, and Gillian Flynn is like the queen of darkness these days. She doesn't really have any good people in her books. You have the bad people and you have the worst people. Her main characters are dealing with a lot mentally, psychologically. They've got screwed up families, they've got screwed up current lives. They're dealing with all of these terrible people in their lives and trying to get through it. And I would love to talk with her about, like, what is going on in your mind that you come up with this stuff? It's brilliant. And the last person on my list of authors that I would love to invite to dinner, Meg Wolitzer. Her books often start out with her main characters as kids or as teenagers and what they're doing, how they met, and goes into adulthood and how they're interacting in each other's lives now. The Female Persuasion is her newest book. It goes into the story of a girl in college. She goes to a seminar with this feminist speaking, and when she graduates college, she decides she wants to go work for this feminist. The feminist in this book, while having a lot of feminist values, isn't always the best person. Female Persuasion really goes into the different layers of feminism. You have the feminist speaker who has a lot of feminist values, but also has all of these problems with the people that she associates with the way she behaves. Same with the girl who went to her seminar. She's an advocate for all sorts of people, but she also does some very questionable things and some pretty terrible things to the people that she loves because she's only human. I would love to have a discussion with Meg Wolitzer on how she comes up with her book topics, what feminism looks like to her. It's another author where I just want to be like, how did you come up with this? Where does your mind go? What inspires you in your day-to-day life? Definitely check this out for some interesting and layered feminist fiction. My next question is a favorite high school subject or hobby. My favorite subject and hobby in high school was definitely art, and for that, I have The Art of James Christensen, A Journey of the Imagination. Gorgeous hardcover, has some of his illustrations. I found him so inspiring in high school. He's got these beautiful, colorful paintings, just all of these kind of hidden items in there. Something that comes up in his paintings a lot is fish. He will just have a random fish somewhere in there. You have this guy who is kind of talking to or looking at this fish. One of my favorite paintings by him is The Fishwalker. It is this guy who's walking a bunch of fish on leashes, kind of like you would as a dog walker. He was very, very inspiring to me. I loved painting and drawing and trying to copy the styles of artists to see what all I could do. Question number 7 is an unpopular opinion. And it's my opinion that not everyone has to have kids, and not everyone wants to have kids. So for this, I have selfish, shallow, and self-absorbed. 16 writers on the decision not to have kids. This is another collection of essays. They're extremely well written. Some of them are even beautiful in their writing styles. They flow really well. I was actually inspired to look up all of the different writers and the editor at my library to see other books that they had written that I might be interested in, because the writing in here was just so fantastic. I really connected with a lot of these, and it goes into how they came to have the decision of not having kids, whether it was something that they decided from day one, something that they decided based on their environment, and it also goes into their partners and whether their partners agreed or disagreed and how they handled that. Definitely check this out if you don't want to have kids. if you know someone who doesn't want to have kids, or if you're just curious to know more about the topic. My final question is weird interests. And for weird interests, I've chosen Vibrator Nation by Lynn Camella. In college, I started taking all of the sex and gender classes that I could find. There was psychology of gender, sociology of gender, human sexuality. There were actually 2 different human sexuality classes. I took both of them at the same time. I was just fascinated. I wanted to know more about pleasure. I wanted to know more about my own body. I wanted to feel like I had ownership of my own body and having this knowledge. And I actually ended up spending 3 years of college working at an adult store, and that is still one of the best, most important experiences that I have ever had in my life. Lynn Camella actually worked at an adult store herself, and she interviewed a bunch of people who worked at adult stores. She details what it's like to work in a store, how the stores affect the communities around them, and how those communities affect the stores, how the stores took part in sex education. It talks about the big ones like Garden of Eden, I think it was called. It was like the first sex store, one of the first sex stores. There's Babeland, Good Vibrations. It goes a lot into the politics of the sex stores and how hard it was to get them started, what inspired the people to get them started, how they grew throughout time. And fun fact, one of my sociology teachers from college is really good friends with Lynn Camella. And I just thought it was really cool that I know someone who knows someone who wrote a book that I love. So, that's my Books About Me tag. Thank you for watching my very first booktube video. I hope to be bringing you a lot more content soon. Down in the comments, I'd love to hear about you and about books that inspire you, or